Your local radio station.
Senedd Talk Radio.
It's Friday, May the 7th. Welcome along to our coverage of the Senedd Elections 2021. Joining me in the studio today is Gwenoro Jones, former MP for Carmarthenshire and our political analyst. We'll be bringing you all the results as they come in, along with interviews with the candidates involved in the election process.
Your stories, your platform. This is Senedd Talk Radio.
Welcome along. My name's Alan Evans. This is Senedd Talk Radio.
Your stories, your platform. This is Senedd Talk Radio.
That's Queen there. I want to break free, and no stranger to wanting to break free is Neil McAvoy of Propel in Cardiff. Welcome along, Neil.
Thanks for the call, Alan. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. How's it looking in Cardiff then? Paint a picture for us. Where are you? What are you doing?
We're still in the count. We're in the House of Sport, just behind the Cardiff City Stadium. We've not started counting yet. They're still verifying the votes. So, I mean, it's a long old process. It looks, we've done okay. We've done very well in some areas. We've done average in other areas. We've done badly in some boxes. So mixed bag. It looks as if Drakeford is safe, I would say, to be frank.
Yeah.
But I think, with party members are here still quite enthused, actually, because we've gone from a standing start, if truth be told. We weren't officially a party till the 2nd of March.
Yeah.
So I really can't overstate the difficulties that I suppose the system presented us with. Our party political broadcast was all about overcoming barriers. Yeah. And it's been like that since I got elected, really, in 2016.
Yeah, I think the catchphrase is now is going to be, isn't it? You tell him, Neil.
Well, I mean, it's it's been like the Alamo. As soon as I got in, I expected to be an opposition politician. Yeah, wasn't allowed to be that. Was told by Plaid Cymru, in certain terms, to toe the line really and turn a blind eye to corruption, as I've said previously. But taking the positive out of it, what we have now is a party and a group of people in Propel determined to fight. And I think Labour will be worried looking at some of the results from some of the boxes, looking at the council elections, because we've clearly won the wards in some areas. We won Fairwater. We seem to have won Ely as well. Held their own in other areas. In other areas, we didn't hold our own.
Well, I guess that's where you're going to be left then, if you're not elected. That's where you're going to focus your attention, is it, on the council elections?
Yeah, I think we've said that that's all part of the strategy, really. We've got it's a rolling campaign. We don't stop campaigning. And, there are people coming forward that want to stand for council. So we were just going to carry on and, as I said, keep on working, keep on representing people in the communities. The overall result, I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but we'll see. It's not over till it's over, but I'm looking at it realistically there. There seems to be, as well, I think, some confusion with the regional vote. There are lots of blank sheets for the regional vote, which people seem to have voted for me on the constituency and not done so on the region, which is interesting. Yeah. There was a big problem yesterday as well in people actually being able to vote. The expectation is if you go to a polling station, you should be able to vote. And there were people who simply couldn't hang around for more than an hour, be that they have difficulty with legs or care responsibilities. So a lot of people were turning out to vote. So I was out at one polling station nearly. There was a minimum half-hour wait. Everyone in the queue wanted to vote for me, ironically, and there was just one booth there. I mean, for the life of me, I don't understand why there weren't more booths in those areas. Well, maybe we probably can work out why, to be honest.
Yeah. The whispers we're hearing is that Leanne Woods is the possibility she's going to lose her seat. What do you think that could be put down to, is it Mark Drakeford's popularity, the way he's handled the pandemic, or is it just that Plaid Cymru have really not got their message across, or it's just not a popular message?
Plaid Cymru is very, very close to Labour. So if you stand too close to a fire, you get burnt. And Labour have been running Wales for 100 years. Very, very strong machine. When I was in the Plaid Cymru group, the group policy was to implement so-called Plaid policy through the Labour group. I mean, it was the level of collaboration, and I do use the word collaboration deliberately, is something to behold. And Leanne was more interested in firing bullets at me. I mean, from 2017 onwards, when we won Cardiff West in the local elections, all Plaid did was fire bullets at me. They put forward the complaints to the Standards Commissioner. Leanne was obsessed with, I suppose, clearing out certain people from the party, which she did do. And the irony is that in doing that, she's cleaned herself out. It's seen. Maybe, again, we can't really speculate, because I know that she may well get over the line. It's not over until the votes are counted. But I think if Leanne is not elected, then she's destroyed herself, really.
Okay, we've got Gwynnoro Jones in the studio here, and I'm sure he wants to ask you a question as well. He's a former MP.
I know. Hi.
You know him.
How you
okay.
doing? Yeah.
Yeah, we know each other quite well. And you were always on a hard wicket, weren't you, Neil? Because, as you said, a new party is a new party, but a very new party is a different ball game. And, I've been there. I've in the 80s, but then we were very successful in those days. We're getting about 23% of the vote. It takes a time for a political party to break through. How do you see it? That's the next thing for you. How are you going to build it up? That's your question. That's your challenge, really.
We've already started. We're building it from the communities up. We're sat around the table watching votes being tipped out of ballot boxes, discussing the council elections. We're in a position now where we've got a good-sized membership. We're viable. And so what we need to do is look at what has happened in the campaign, take the good, look at what we didn't do so well, and we need to improve. And I think there are areas where we can be strong next year, standing for the council. It's critical evaluation also. So what was good, what was bad, what worked, what didn't work, and do more of what worked.
Yeah.
I think that the problem we had is they knew what they were doing, and we're at the risk of sounding negative, but I'm just being honest, to be frank. We live in a post-fully democratic society, because the Electoral Commission, individuals, connections to the Labour Party, to Plaid Cymru, were able to frustrate us over 15 months and stop a political party existing. And the way they did it was very clever as well, because when we were initially on the list on the register as a political party in January 2020, we were then removed in March 2020. We're the only political party in history to have been removed from the register without having done anything wrong. And then instead of telling us, well, we're going to let you know everything in 10 months, because if it had said that, we'd have immediately gone for the name Propel. But they didn't. They kept on dragging it out and giving us a deadline which they would miss, and then another deadline they would miss. Or we're going to let you know in July. And that went. Yep. We're going to let you know in September. That deadline went. It's going to be the end of September. That deadline went.
Deal.
And then all of a sudden, we're in January, and they tell us the 15th of January we don't have a name.
Can I suggest to you, my good friend, that really now the challenge for you is to look ahead. Whatever might have happened before has happened. And so that question I'm really wanting to do, where are you targeting now? There's elections. There's elections within a year. Where in Wales are you going to be targeting?
We're going to be targeting where we're strong with membership. We've got good number of. Well, we've got clearly got a good base in Cardiff. We've got an interesting base in certain valleys where people are keen to stand for council. We've got a good membership in certain parts of North Wales as well. So really, what we need to do is just sit down, look at where we can do well, where we can win council seats, and go ahead and win them. But I think what we're doing as well is we'll do more in terms of policy development. We didn't have a manifesto. We had a contract with Wales. I think that those are 10 very solid laws that we need to sell more, because that contract is not going away, because the Labour government is not going to implement those things which desperately need implemented. And I mean, giving people rights when they're in dispute with public services, we want a public services investigator elected. There are lots of really good policies. The gas, for example, billions of pounds worth of gas in Wales we're not using. We could immediately cut Wales's carbon footprint by accessing the gas in the mines. It's not fracking, it's methane, it's available. We're not doing that. And so what we need to have is a continued conversation with people in Wales. We only just started.
Yeah, of course. That's what I was asking you. One final thing then. Because I know inside out how to set up a new party. I've did it for years. Have you got a committee? Have you got a structure? Or are you slowly starting to build it? Because without that structure, it won't work, will it?
No, we've got a board. We've got regions. We have a structure. We have a good solid constitution. We've a good bunch of members. So yeah, we're there really. It's just a question of, so we have the structure, we have the skeleton, if you like. What we need to do is put more flesh on the bones, and that's what we're going to do. Because it's worth remembering that whatever happens today, we've still got 8 county councillors in Wales. We've still got 4 community councillors, and what we need to do is build on that base.
Yeah.
And get more. And next year, I think if this were a council election today, we would definitely have 6. We would definitely double our representation on the council, for example. We'd be walking out there with a minimum of 6 seats. So it's not all doom and gloom, really.
No, I'm sure not. I'm sure not.
We've done well, and looking at if you want to be realistic about it, we didn't expect a level playing field, but it would have been nice to be able to have got on the pitch sometimes during this campaign. But we knew we were going to be excluded by the established media, so we're just going to continue to build the grassroots, really.
There we go.
We'll see what the actual vote is.
Okay,
across Wales.
We look forward to getting those results in, and as you say, more work to be done. And a win is a win, whether it's council elections or whether it's the Senedd. So, Neil McAvoy, many thanks for speaking to us today.
Diolch yn fawr.
Bucks Fizz and making your mind up just what the people of Wales did yesterday, and we should be getting some more results in quite soon. Welcome back to the studio with me. Still is Gwenora Jones. You may be looking at your newspapers and news sites tomorrow and seeing another victory for Welsh Labour, and you can bet that the Welsh media will be packed with photos and reports. Gwenora, the claim is that the Welsh media is in crisis, no plurality, the dominance of the BBC, the lack of Welsh language content. Is the Welsh media robust enough to hold politicians to account? What do you think?
Before I come to that, just let me say, the Vale of Clwyd is into a recount.
All right.
That means a Labour seat could be in danger to the Tories. It was one of the Tories' target seats, the Vale of Clwyd. There's now a recount going on at the moment in the Vale of Clwyd, which rather thinks to me that the Tories might well be on the way to winning it. Anyway, the Welsh media, yes. It's only about 2 years I've been into this with you, as you know, and I've been very impressed with the setup you have and the way the Welsh news is covered and its content. And it's in such a way that is unique. And the uniqueness is that you cover the 5 Senedd regions, and the quality and the amount of news that comes within those 5 regions is quite phenomenal, really. And on top of that, there is the Welsh language dimension. Now, I can't speak with certainty, but I doubt, other than Golwg 360, I doubt if anyone else gives as much coverage to Welsh daily Welsh language news as we do. And I think that is something the Senedd and the new Welsh government, whichever complexion, coalition or Labour on its own, they will have to pay attention to the future of the Welsh media. And I don't mean by that big Welsh media. I mean the Welsh media at local and regional level right across Wales, because that is where the future is. It is future in terms of online. It is future in terms of hyper-local news. That is what creates the interest, and that is what people yearn for. They get their main news from BBC One, Sky, ITV, whatever. Local papers, as we know, for 20 years have been in decline, and it's gone worse during the COVID, in fact. I remember the days when in Carmarthen, when I was an MP and candidate, 20,000 was the circulation of the Carmarthen Journal, 20,000 was the circulation of the Carmarthen Times, about 14,000 the South Wales Guardian. The Tyneside was about 6,000. Now, if you were to look at the figures now in those areas, they've collapsed. In fact, one or two of the papers are no longer going. So therefore, yes, the Welsh Government needs to assess what is the future of Welsh media. Not the media, Welsh media. Because the dominance is, be it the Western Mail, be it the other big Evening Post, Daily Post, BBC Wales, ITV Wales, Radio Cymru. Yes, that is a component of the Welsh media, but by far the most important thing to try and develop from a Senedd point of view and also from a local community point of view is that local concentration. Now, I think you said before about the various hubs, 4 or 5 hubs in Wales. That's got a role, that's got a future. Apparently, the Welsh Government is thinking along the lines of putting in some £500,000 to £1 million a year into a fund to develop the Welsh media. But it sadly needs it, because we're getting far too much news that is London-centric, let alone Cardiff-centric. 70-80% of the Welsh news comes from London. And that is a problem. And that is a problem for Welsh democracy. It's a problem for the Senedd's publicity. If you were to think of it, how often does the Welsh Senedd get covered on BBC radio or BBC television in the news every day?
There is, there's some talk really about the way the media is operating as well, in that it sort of promotes and promulgates sort of a political bent, a slant. So you might see, tomorrow in the newspapers very much, all the photos of Mark Drakeford and Labour and all this kind of thing. They don't seem to paint it with an even brush, and especially when it comes down to local politics and local coverage. Somebody was saying, you for them to come to Llanelli, there has to be somebody with an axe in their back, smoking crack and drunk out of their minds with some kind of weird outfit on. They're just not interested. They want to take the low-hanging fruit. These aren't my comments. These are coming from some people within the industry and people who've left the industry who are now disillusioned with the grip that the big players have on the Welsh media. The ICNN and Public Interest News Foundation are doing some great work in the background, really, where they are saying also that these days of news being a white man, middle class, educated, these days are gone. We need to hear. Communities are made up of very diverse, mixture of people, and we need to hear those voices. We need to see them being represented. Would you agree with that?
Yes, but the biggest thing by far by now is an understanding that the future of news in Wales is online and local. And you build up a system whereby you cover the local news in a given number of areas, what Wales News Online is doing, 5 regions. The regions of the Senedd makes perfect sense to me. And it's something that the Senedd needs to address, because it needs to have the news of what happens in Wales, what happens in the Senedd, the decisions they take, the decisions of the committees, the activities of the committees of the Senedd. It's got to get a voice. It's got to get an airing. It's got to get a delivery. And therefore, that is why a Welsh media base, along broadly the lines I mentioned is the way ahead. Okay. Otherwise, you see, our media in Wales is totally different to Scotland. In Scotland, they don't really have the Sun and the Express and the Mail and all that. Those are not their dominant papers. There's far more Scottish content to the Scottish news. Now, that is what we've got to approach in Wales and bring it down to as local a level as possible.
Oh, okay. It's coming up to, it's 24 minutes past 3. I think we should be getting some far more results in shortly as some of the counts conclude. So stick with us. A bit of music now, and we'll be back shortly discussing some of those key seats at the Senedd Elections 2021.
Your local radio station.
We are Senedd Talk Radio.